After 13 straight days, how important was this day off for your team today?
Oh man, we've needed it for quite some time, and that it wasn't just the 13 straight. It was really 26 out of 30 or so that we were traveling, and it was a lot of coast to coasts, and we needed this day. So hopefully the guys aren't doing much other than just recovering.
Who needs it more, pitchers or hitters? I know we hear a lot about the pitchers and their need for it, and maybe that's still the answer, but who needs it more, the pitchers, the hitters? Is it physical? Is it mental? Tell me a little bit more about it.
The coaches, the skipper, the president, the GM.
Who needs this the most?
Yeah, the fans. I would say everybody needs a little break every now and then, but in this case, I think watching over the course of the last 2 weeks and just assessing, ordinarily my answer to that would be the everyday players who are on their feet all the time. And when you're playing 13 games in a row and you are JP Crawford and your legs start to get heavy, and and when Cal Raleigh, who's been just an Iron Man behind the plate, and he's taken a beating, especially over this last couple of weeks, you would think that those guys are the ones that are first in line for the day off. But I would say collectively, this is probably it was the best timing, or really a week ago would have been great timing, but we needed this off day for our pitching staff to just have a little bit of a breather. It's it's been a real grind with a lot of close games and a lot of need to get guys in and out there to protect leads, and it's been a really tough grind. So glad for them to just get a little bit of a break.
You ever been around a situation where the leadership just mandates you can't come in? Like I know that there have been coaches in the past and bye weeks or sending assistant coaches home in the world that I live in. Like, no, sorry, you are not coming to the facility today unless you're injured for rehab. Nobody is coming here. We are mandating that you stay away. Have you ever been in a situation like that in these off days?
Oh, yeah. And, on off days, with the exception of injured players, we will not see or hear from any of the guys. They will just go, under, and they should. But, that's every off day for us. We will generally shut down with the exception of those who need treatment. And, and really we do that. And I know Scott does it periodically throughout the year when you get the sense that guys just need time, where you schedule the buses for later on road trips. You cancel batting practice. And we've had, instances in Seattle where we've just kept the doors to the clubhouse shut and nobody's allowed to report until X hour so that we can ensure that the guys are doing their best to try to ease up on their body a little.
So 16 games left to play now. That is essentially an old football season. I know it's 17 now, but it's funny. We spend all this time, trying to remind people that baseball and football are different, 162 games. With 16 games left, how does it change?
I don't know if it changes at all. I think the way you approach it, and at least the way I approach it, is to look at these 16 games, and don't really pay much attention at all to the 146 that came before it. What do we need to do for the next 16 to put ourselves in a position to play beyond that? And and I do think that our players do an awesome job of just moving on to the next game. And that's, I think, one of the special gifts of this group is they've been like that for quite some time. And, you can get bogged down. You can let a bad week or a bad series or a bad night get to you. Anybody does. But this group has historically done a great job of just moving on to the next.
Jerry, what number is it, or what stat, or what metric from Julio that from your perspective is just the most, amazing, jaw-dropping, just blows your mind of what he's able to do at 22 years of age?
All of it, really. I don't know if I can pick out a single metric that would, tell the story. Julio, it's the attraction in Julio is really the whole package. It's the offense, it's the defense, it's the base running, it's the power, it's the speed. Honestly, it's what he's been able to do since the All-Star break, which really is unbelievable if you take a look back at it in retrospect. How good he's been, and I think he's very much put himself in the MVP conversation. And I don't know, when you're talking about such a well-rounded player, and then you add into it, the the additives that he brings, the engagement with the fans, he's inviting, and right now, I mean, he's really on some kind of heater, and it's been quite some time that this has been going on, and for a team to get on the kind of run that we've generally been on for the last 2.5 months, you need Julio's to do what Julio's doing, and I can't even say that you need him to do that. He's gone above and beyond, but he's had a phenomenal run, and I really couldn't pick apart one thing because the real attraction is all the things.
It is a total package. I guess what strikes me, Jerry, is just the speed. The speed that he plays in the outfield, the speed that he rounds the bases, the speed to steal bases with the kind of size and power he has. I mean, how many in the game of baseball have that 230-pound frame that can play at the speed with which he does?
I mean, it's such a unique thing. And, it's why in our business, and, every year we're going to go through a draft. We run through cyclically, we run through our annual international free agent cycle, that generally leads us to players like Julio in a perfect scenario. You're always looking for that physical athlete, the size, speed, power, speed combo that sometimes results like this, because when you hit on it, like we as an organization have been fortunate or blessed enough to hit on with Julio, it's such a difference maker when you have someone who can do all those different things on a field that Julio does.
Hey, I want to talk about Luis Castillo for a second, and I think I would, more and Justin were asking me earlier why if I hadn't talked about him as much this year as maybe they thought I would, given how much I've enjoyed him. I think what I was realizing is that he surprised me a little bit this year. I think with Luis, I was expecting some unbelievable, 8-inning shutout, he's so dominant, nobody can touch him type of performances, but maybe a little bit more inconsistency. And instead, I feel like what we've gotten this year has been unbelievable consistency, but maybe without some of those going super deep 8-9 inning and dominating kind of games. Is that a fair characterization of his season?
Yeah, I was thinking about this yesterday when you think about The Rock, and he's doing what aces do. He's going out there, he's taking his turn every fifth or sixth day, whenever the off day may fall. And he's putting an end to the losing skids. He's giving you the innings on the night that you need the innings. He's doing the things that aces do, and I do think, and maybe the reason why your expectation is what it is. He has had big nights, but when you consider the big nights that he had to end the 2022 season, whether it's the start in Toronto, it's the start in Houston, it's that start against the Yankees, he did such phenomenal things in a short period of time in 2022 that you couldn't help but raise the bar on what you thought it was going to look like. And lo and behold, now we look, 6 months into our season, or roughly 6 months into our season, and he's a Cy Young candidate, and he's putting a stop to those losing skids, and he's doing the things that you need aces to do. And when you look at all the counting stats, he's among the best in the league. When you look at innings pitched and strikeouts and ERA and all that, he's been really, really good, and at times he's been great. And my guess is, like he has shown us in the past, when the temperature rises in the building, he's going to rise with it. He's got that gene.
Was some of that consistency part of the plan for this year? I mean, is the one negative we had heard kind of reputationally about him before he got here is, when he's great, but he's not always consistent. And I wondered if that was something that was really a
focus,
focal point.
Right? Wasn't it focus?
Yeah, focused. I guess that's probably a better word. He wasn't always focused, but I can't come up with a single game this year where I would even think to make that argument about Luis.
Yeah, I think if I had to point to one redeeming trait with Luis, it would be that he is one of the most consistent people I think we've ever had in Seattle, at least during my time here. He never changes. It's in a lot of the same ways I would credit Gino. It's funny that they both come via Cincinnati, but they're just such consistent people. They don't let the bump in the road get them down. They don't, The Rock doesn't panic when there's 2 men on and nobody out. He just makes his pitches. And, if he gives up 2 in the first, he settles in and he grinds through it. And that's what guys, the guys that are guys do. And I see other of our pitchers picking up on similar, they are taking that and running with it. And, we saw it from George in Tampa. We've seen it multiple times from Logan throughout. I think in a more modest way, we saw that in Tampa from Bryce Miller. We saw it in Cincinnati from Brian Wu. Hey, we don't stop. We just go out there and we keep on grinding. And that's the consistency that Luis has brought to the table. And his focus this year was simply on being that guy over the course of a 32-33 start season and achieving some personal goals, which was putting himself in position like this to pitch for a postseason team with a chance to go win a Cy Young, be an all-star, because that's what his tools, his abilities allow him to set as goals.
Well, as you bring that up, Jerry, it's kind of a perfect lead into the comments that George Kirby made Friday night that I think surprised a lot of folks, and then loved what he had to say the next day to kind of take it back and apologize for it. From your perspective and having pitched the way you did, what was your reaction to what George had said?
Well, I've never pitched the way George does, so we're the same in name only, I guess. But George. My general thought is, if you put a microphone in front of everybody after an emotional athletic endeavor where you go out there and you're grinding and your team's in a postseason and you just gave up a homer that was a key. I've made bigger flubs with a microphone in front of me under far less pressure than that. And, it's human. You're just being human. And I don't really count it as any more than that. I think the whole, firestorm afterward about innings and pitcher development and what we should expect of pitchers in some far past generation. I understand the thought behind it. Go look at what George actually does. George is an innings eater. George is the guy that wants the ball and wants to go compete. He's also a human being who's really experiencing that type of moment for the first time in his baseball life, where we are riding the roller coaster of a September playoff race, and in the big moment we lost it, and he reacted in a way that clearly the next day he expressed regretting. But I don't really count it as any type of penalty, or shouldn't be counted as any type of ding against George. He does throw the 100 pitches, he does throw the innings, and he wants the ball in those moments.
Man, I sure wish I could hear what J.P. Crawford said to Matt Brash yesterday. I think it's one of my favorite moments, certainly of the game yesterday in the 8th inning after a walk and getting behind in the count. And J.P. does what J.P. has done all season long, and that is just lead. I'm curious, Jerry, from your perspective in the Wayback Machine, did you have a teammate or two like J.P. that when you were on the mound or others were on the mound and maybe the game's speeding up or falling behind or need a little kick in the pants, was there a player or two from your history that you remember? And what does that mean to this staff to have JP as that guy?
Yeah, it's funny, so frequently in your baseball life, that turns out to be the shortstop. And, there's a reason why, when you go back and you think about, Little League or playing in high school, the player you often remember is the shortstop. It's the shortstop, it's the catcher. They are associated with leading and slowing the game down at various times. And I do appreciate how much JP has grown with this team and taken on, that type of leadership characteristic. When I was playing in Colorado, I played with Walt Weiss, who's now a major league manager. He's on staff as a coach with the Atlanta Braves right now. And Walt was that guy. He would tap in, he would stop the game, he would come visit the mound. And they're not saying anything, prolific. It's not a scouting report on a player. As a matter of fact, Walt would come in. Oftentimes he'd put his glove over his face and he'd start singing you a song just to relax you. It's like calming the savage beast, and it's just to slow you down more than anything else. And it takes a little bit of feel to know when it's time to do that. And, 21-year-old shortstops don't often do that. You need a little bit of time under you. And JP has really grown into that player for us.
Let's see, just a couple of sort of housekeeping kind of items. How's Jared today? And we had a day off or two after getting nicked in the foot. Do we expect him back tomorrow?
Yeah, he was available yesterday in the event that he was needed in game. So my expectation is that he would be available tomorrow.
Where are we at with the backup catcher spot? Obviously, Luis in there now. What does that look like going forward here?
Unfortunately, not knowing going into the second half of the season with a healthy Tom Murphy, and then experiencing, the unfortunate injury that he has been dealing with. We're just going to have to piece it together and rely on our own system. It's, we've had Brian O'Keefe contributing. We've got LT back on the roster now. We've got Pedro Severino in the system. So, we do have guys with some experience that we can lean on if necessary. But, we've talked about the 24-hour open all night markets for players that doesn't really exist for catchers in September.
I like seeing Terens back. I'm just putting in my plug right now. I just like seeing Luis Terens back on the roster. I love watching him hit for whatever reason, and that's my plug. I'm just a Terens guy, so while I've got you here, I'll throw
not
out,
a Beyonce guy,
no,
not a Beyonce guy,
no,
but a Terens guy.
More of a Terens guy.
Just
hey, look, I know we spend all of our time for the most part talking about what's going on at the major league level, but this time of year, I'm sure some of your attention is divided with minor league playoffs, et cetera. It was an awesome walk-off the other day for Modesto. As you're watching, Modesto and Everett and the rest of the groups in the playoffs, what is that experience like? Who should we be paying attention to? Who's succeeding?
Well, I mean, who's succeeding right now? And I know this sounds, like a casual plug for our player development system, and it is. They're all succeeding. It's unbelievable the quality of development that we have experienced over these last couple of years. And right now we've got Modesto. They are up 1-0 in the California League Championships. We've got Everett tied 1-1 in the Northwest League Championships. I think on the 21st, Arkansas will start the Texas League Championships, and it's an exciting thing when your prospects get to experience playoff baseball, and it's something we've always been high on. I know I've plugged it before. We had a huge win in Modesto the other night, a walk-off win where some of our best prospects, Laz Montez hits a home run to tie it in the 9th, goes out in the top of the 10th and throws out the ghost runner trying to advance to third base on a fly ball to right with as big a throw as you can possibly make. And then we come in and we grind through at bats in our first round draft. Colt Emerson, who's, a couple of months out of high school, hits a laser over the center fielder's head to win the game, which was just exciting as can be. And, and in Everett last night, we dumped 10 runs on the kids from Vancouver. And it's just so fun to watch these guys go out and play in those environments. And we will reap the benefit of it for years to come, like we are with guys like Cal and George and Logan, who've been through these JK, they've been through these playoff type environments, and it really is a good training device.
I think we talked about this last September as well in the mechanism for the stress and the chaos of these final 16 games.
Just do a lot of cardio. Do a lot of cardio. It's so fun to watch, and it can be. I was actually texting with my dad after yesterday's game. You enjoy it. There's going to be stress. You're going to ride some highs and lows. You try to remain, calm and realize in the moment that you can't really control much of it, and just watch and have fun with it. Because, it's not, we know all the years that we've been baseball fans, baseball people, it's not every year that you're in these types of positions. And, I would like to be the Braves and have clinched yesterday, but that's not where we're at. We're in a position where we're going to go out and we're going to make these last 16 games exciting. And, whether we want them to be or not, they're going to be. we should just, enjoy the ride, because it's so much fun when you get the opportunity like we had last year to get to the dance floor.
I was trying to tell myself that Monday. I was like, this is a great September baseball game, back and forth, and I don't know whether I succeeded fully.
Other things, but yeah.
Right. There were some other words that came out of my mouth, but I was trying to remind myself that was a good, fun, exciting September baseball game, and it made me feel alive. I'll ask you a question that you might not be able to answer, but it was asked of me recently, so I thought I would throw it at you. If you could choose one guy who maybe hasn't been at his absolute best, so maybe taking Julio or somebody like that out of it, to really, if you could wave the magic wand and say, okay, if this guy just gets going here in the last 16 games, it would be such a huge benefit to our team. Is there one person you would just give the magic salve to?
Well, I mean, there's so many of them that are going so good. You know, Julio and Cal, Teoscar, that have been otherworldly. JP, really, I think JP is sneaky. He's going to surprise people where he finishes on MVP ballots. He's been that good this year. Mm-hmm. The one guy that has been a little bit streakier, and when he goes good, we score a lot of runs, is Gino. And, if we could get that good run from Gino in these last couple of weeks and into the postseason, we know it's in there. We've seen it. We've seen it this year. And when he gets in that mode, it really makes our lineup a different lineup. And I could pick multiple guys that I would love to see get going, mostly for themselves, but also for us. And fortunately we have so many guys that are going good that it allows you're not going to get 9 guys going great as we were in August for ever. So, right now we're in the down cycle for some, and hopefully we lock back in here for these last few weeks.
It dawns on me that Munoz is another guy, not that he's been struggling, but if, with a hot Andres Munoz would be such a huge weapon. Just watching him yesterday, and it seems like some of the velocity has ticked back up. It seemed like he kind of went away from the slider a little bit yesterday. We saw more of the two-seamer. Where is he at in terms of kind of getting himself to the best version of himself?
I thought he looked awesome yesterday. He was attacking the strike zone. He was living at 100. It was live. He was throwing his two-seamer, which, it's a devastating pitch. The last pitch of the game, which, Cal threw the runner out on, was a slider, which I thought was, one of the best sliders that we've seen him throw in a little bit here. But I think, Mooney, and I know this is going to come off as sounding, defensive, but at the end of the day, when you pitch as much as our bullpen pitched for that 6-week stretch starting around, the last week of July, in that many close games, our leverage guys really got pounded. And when you look at Mooney was the league's reliever of the month for the month of August, and you see, the save total, the game total, what you don't see in there is the number of times that they were up and down in that game before they got in. You don't see, that pitching with a 1-run lead in the 9th and 10th inning, or coming in with 2 men on and 1 out. There's an elevated level of exertion and emotion that goes into that. So, I know I said it here last week or the week before, I'm loath to get too judgy on the performances in those moments, because the workload has been so high. And, it's when you go back and you look at it, our bullpen in general has allowed some traffic here over the course of the last 3 weeks. And I really do think that's just an aftermath of the workload. And that's why getting these off days, Mooney's always been confident. Mooney's always been, and frankly, in August, when we're talking critically about his performance, he's pretty awesome. And, if you go back and look at it retroactively a year or 2 years or 10 years from now, you say, damn, look at the month that Andres Munoz had in August of 2023. And that's the way baseball works, is the emotion affects you in the moment, but he's done a really nice job in doing his job. And then yesterday I thought he was in attack mode, and you're going to have great days, which I thought yesterday was one of, and you're going to have fair days, and and then you're going to have days where you struggle. But for the most part, we've gotten a lot of the average to elite days, which is going to be more than enough.
His two-seamer is pretty ridiculous. I don't know how anybody hits that. I don't know how anybody hits anything that Matt Brash throws. It was pretty fun watching them yesterday, and it was going to be a fun last couple of weeks. Jerry, we'll do it again next Thursday. Thank you.
You got it, guys.